Nyck De Vries had a very wild outing last time out in Monza, from him driving in free practice 1 for Aston Martin on the Friday to being told he was driving for Williams for the rest of the weekend, just 30 minutes before the start of free practice 2. He is clearly a very talented driver, securing P9 and securing 2 points for Williams. He is, of course, a former Formula 2 and Formula E champion, so he clearly has a lot of skill. But how come he does not have a seat in Formula 1? Does he deserve a seat? And what are his options? Well, these are many questions that need to be answered, and we will be answering them for you, so let's get going. Before we get into the options that Nyck has and what teams he could possibly join for 2023, let's take a look at what he did at Monza. With there being a rule in Formula 1 that means each team must field a young driver in free practice 1 sessions twice in each season. So Aston Martin took one of these opportunities and let Nyck De Vries drive an Aston Martin car round the Temple of Speed on Friday. However, this would not be the end of Nyck's time driving a Formula 1 car this weekend, with Alex Albon having to drop out of the weekend due to illness. It meant that Williams had to look to their reserve driver to fill in, and who was this reserve driver? Well, it was Nyck De Vries. Nyck would get the call from Williams to let him know that he was driving for them for the rest of the weekend just 30 minutes before the start of free practice 2. In qualifying, he would qualify P13 with a few mistakes, which is understandable as this was his first time doing a full qualifying session. But with many drivers having grid penalties, meaning that he would actually start in P8, setting him up for a very good race to come. Nyck would do excellent for his first ever Formula 1 race, finishing P9, which could have been even higher if he was not stuck in a DRS train for most of the race behind Pierre Gasly. Nyck would get a lot of praise from many drivers as he has now taken more points than Nicholas Latifi has done all season. So this has had many people questioning Latifi and asking the question if De Vries could replace him. Former Formula 1 champion Damien Hill had his thoughts on the matter, saying, in this case, Nicholas hasn't got the pace he needs to stay in that position in Formula 1. He's had some good moments, but along comes a guy, De Vries, who's not even driven in a Grand Prix before, and he's done a fantastic job. So clearly, Damien believes that Latifi's time in Formula 1 is over, and that De Vries should maybe replace Latifi come the end of this season. Hill also said, I know he had grid penalties and stuff like that, which helped him up the grids, but he still delivered in qualifying and didn't really make a mistake. He's done enough for us to be talking about him. He's got Toto talking about him. That's what you need to do to become a Formula 1 driver. So Hill clearly believes that De Vries had the pedigree to become a future Formula 1 driver, with him winning the Formula 2 championship and the Formula E championship, which further solidifies how good of a driver he really is. Do you think that De Vries deserves the opportunity to drive in Formula 1? Well, if you think he does, let's take a look at what options he has for 2023. Well, of course, the most obvious option after De Vries' great drive in Monza is for him to replace Latifi and drive alongside Albon for the 2023. De Vries would of course be a massive upgrade on Latifi, and him alongside Albon would be a great driver lineup, which could allow Williams to move slowly up the grid. Latifi is a pay driver and does bring a lot of money into the team, but he's costing the team as this season they are driving with one hand behind their backs, with only having one driver who is good enough for Formula 1. Bringing in De Vries, who is 27, brings in enough experience, but also a talent who is willing to prove himself to the Formula 1 world after not being able to showcase his talents. Even though the Williams is the worst car on the grid, he will still be able to showcase his skills, just like Albon has done this season, with getting several points finishes this season. De Vries said regarding his weekend, saying, every time you get the chance to drive a Formula 1 car, that is the kind of the job interview audition, and you've got to take those opportunities. So from this, we can gather that De Vries believes that his drive alone, that he deserves a chance at Williams, but maybe another team, which we will get to shortly. When Williams team principal Jost Capito was asked whether De Vries had anything else to do to stake a claim in Formula 1, he said no, there is nothing else he has to do. This clearly indicates that Capito believes De Vries deserves a Formula One seat for 2023, as he has shown what a talent he is. Now, if this seat is in the Williams or not, this is to be seen, but it's looking very likely if Latifi continues his poor performances for the remainder of the season. Overall, it's pretty fair to say that Williams looks like most likely place for De Vries, if Williams does decide to part ways with Nicholas Latifi at the end of the season. But what do you think? Do you think De Vries should be alongside Alex Albon for 2023? Leave your thoughts in the comments below and make sure to subscribe and like the video whilst you're at it. Another option that could happen for De Vries is that he could join Haas, replacing Mick Schumacher for 2023. As you know, we went into the Mick Schumacher debate in one of our recent videos, so make sure to go and check that one out before we get into if De Vries could join Haas for 2023. If Haas does decide to part ways with Mick for 2023, De Vries could be a very good choice for them and for Nick himself. He will be joining a team with a quicker car and will be able to fight for points week in and week out, which he's unable to do if he joined Williams. De Vries will also be able to be alongside a very experienced teammate in Kevin Magnussen. This again is the opposite of Williams, where he will be teammates alongside Alex Albon. Haas are a team which you know what you are getting from them. By going to Haas over Williams, Nick will be able to showcase his talent a lot more, and this could be appealing for the 27-year-old, as this could land him a move to a top team in the future. Of course, we know that Nick and Mercedes have a strong relationship, with him being normally alongside Toto come race day. So, for Nick, if he does go to Haas, he can showcase how much of a talent he really is and be able to put himself in the shop window for potentially when Lewis Hamilton retires. However, one stumbling block for De Vries is that him being a Williams reserve driver, it will cost Haas to get him out of that reserve driver contract. Also, Williams will be very reluctant to let De Vries go to a team that could be in and around for the 2023 season. Overall, for De Vries, moving to Haas would be better for him to showcase his skills if he moves to Haas over Williams. But what do you think? Do you think that De Vries deserves a chance in Haas next season, or is Williams the most obvious option for him? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Overall, it is pretty fair to say that with how impressive De Vries was in Monza, that he deserves at least a full season in Formula One car. Williams clearly looks like the most obvious option for him to partner with Alex Albon, as Latifi is clearly not up to Formula One standard. And with De Vries being 27, he needs to get into Formula One pretty soon, so he even has a small chance to drive for a top team and fight for the championship. But is De Vries deserving a Formula One seat? And where do you think he should go? Well, leave your thoughts in the comments below and make sure you like the video and subscribe for more brilliant Formula One content.